Hello and welcome once again to this Red Gaming Tech video. Myself, Marta. As always, I'm here with the latest news from the tech world in the last 24 or so hours. Today we're going to start things off with some news from both AMD and Intel, as both of them have had some pretty important benchmarks leak out onto the internet. So first things first, what is the source of these particular leaks, I hear you ask? Well, they were tweeted initially by Tom Apisak, whose name you should be very familiar with by this point. He has been quite a reliable source of a lot of information over the last, well, basically ages, to be honest. So what results do we actually have? Well, for AMD we've got the Ryzen 9 3950X, and for Intel we have the i9 10980XE, which of course is Cascade Lake X. And the benchmarks that have leaked have been from Firestrike in both instances. Now, unfortunately, the result for Intel's one is no longer actually available, so you're just going to be seeing his tweet on screen when I get to that one, but at the time of recording at least, you can still see the page for the 3950X. So with all that said, let's actually take a look at the results. So of course you can see the overall score is 29663 for the Ryzen 9 3950X, but obviously what we want to focus on here is the physics score of 32,082 to be more specific. As for Intel's one, which again is the i9 10980XE, we have a score of 2073. Now again, the actual result is no longer available. However, thanks to screenshots which have been grabbed by WCCF Tech, we can see the physics score of the processor in this particular instance is 25,838. So the end result from this is obviously Ryzen comes out on top in this particular instance, and rather handily. However, there is something very, very important to mention. The Intel chip that we see here is undoubtedly not the final silicon, so we can expect performance gap to be closed with improved clocks and obviously just improvements to the actual processor itself as they near the finalized version. So we can expect that performance gap to close as we actually approach the release date of both of these particular processors, but it is interesting to see such a significant lead, at least at the time of recording. So while we should take this with a pinch of salt and not get overly excited until we see final benchmarks, it does show at least that there's a possibility of AMD challenging Intel in this very, very important arena, as well as the desktop arena, which they have definitely been on an absolute tear on, as I'm sure you would agree. But let's move on from that, shall we, to some very interesting news from the PlayStation 5. So you undoubtedly saw those concept images found in a patent some time ago of the PlayStation 5 development kit, and now a real-life photo of an alleged PlayStation 5 development kit has been posted online thanks to a video by Zone of Tech. Now, of course, you can find their video linked in the description below this video. So as you can see in their video, this particular image shows a console or development kit, to be more accurate, that looks eerily similar to what we have seen previously. We can see all of the USB ports on the front. We can also see the fact that it's got a inbuilt, or sorry, should I say integrated camera, which will undoubtedly be used for VR, so it's not going to have a separate camera feature, which of course is something that they had for the PS4 to be used with the PlayStation VR. Not outside the realms of possibility that they would integrate this if they so desire. Another thing that you can take away from this image is it's kind of hard to tell because it's a little unclear, but it looks like there's feet on what looks like the top of the console, so it looks like in theory it could be turned upside down. Obviously that would be with the vents down. Obviously we don't know what the bottom looks like in this particular image that we can see here, but it looks very, very similar, and obviously we can see on the front, prototype 1 not for sale. So again, this looks eerily similar to those images before. Does this mean this is going to be the final product? No. is the long and short of it. I mean, what we see was probably going to be sleeker, is going to be neater. We're probably going to lose a few ports from the front. It's obviously going to just look more finished. It's obviously incomplete from this picture, but that's not exactly a shock. It's not out until holiday 2020, so Sony literally have an entire year to make the thing look a bit more marketable. But it just goes to show you that at least on the development kit side, that that image was pretty much spot on. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that V-shape still present on the final design, and the amount of vents to pretty much be there as well. Maybe lose a few if they slim the console down a little bit. It's hard to say, of course, so I'm purely speculating. But with the specs of the machine that we do know, and the things that we do know and can kind of take an educated guess that are inside, it is going to need a lot of airflow and ventilation. So I would not be shocked at all to see the thing basically covered in vents. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I mean, obviously the thing in the picture is not particularly good looking, but again, this is a development kit. I think what we're going to see as the final product is going to look similar to this, but not 100% like this. But if it was to look something along these lines, what do you think of this particular design? Like, for example, the V along the top is undoubtedly going to be there in some way or another. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Curious to see your opinions on this. So we're going to finish up today's proceedings with a bit of an update to the whole Blizzard situation. Now, I don't think anyone watching this video needs me to tell them what this is all about. Obviously, Blizzard have been coming under a lot of fire and controversy, backlash, and protests, and all sorts of just negative press over the fact that, well, they banned and withdrew the prize winnings of the Hearthstone player Blitzchung. Of course, the ban was reduced to 6 months from a year, and his winnings were eventually returned to him after an immense amount of pressure. But Blizzard have still been taking action against other players who have expressed similar sentiments to Blitzchung, and unsurprisingly, the fact that this player is still banned for 6 months, and obviously the fact that it took this amount of pressure to get them to return the winnings, it's gone down well. I mean, it's good that he's got his winnings back, don't get me wrong. 6 months is still a long time, however, and the fact that they chose to do it in the first place and have been doubling down and very much justifying the actions they took has gone down pretty much as well as you'd expect. And now they're getting attention from official avenues, as we have US legislators coming down on the company for the Blitzchung ban. So we have a few legislators here. We have the Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congressman Mike Gallagher, and Tom Malinowski, as well as Senators Marco Rubio and Ron Wyden. So they have written a fairly scathing letter to the company, and I'm just going to read directly from it, but you can see a link to the source for this in the description below this video. So, the letter reads, quote, "Your company benefits from China's growing market for esports, along with investment from Tencent, one of China's largest technology firms. As you and your company are no doubt aware, the Chinese government uses the size and strength of its economy to suppress opinion with which it disagrees. Last week alone, the Chinese government targeted Apple for hosting an app to help peaceful demonstrators evade repression, and the NBA because one team general manager tweeted in support of Hong Kong protests. Your company claims to stand by one's right to express individual thoughts and opinions, yet many of your own employees believe that Activision Blizzard's decision to punish Mr. Chung runs counter to these values. Indeed, many gamers around the world have taken notice of your company's actions, understandably calling for boycotts of Activision Blizzard gaming sites. As China amplifies its campaign of intimidation, you and your company must decide whether to look beyond the bottom line and promote American values like freedom of speech and thought, or give in to Beijing's demands in order to preserve market access. We urge you to the strongest terms to reconsider your decision with respect to Mr. Chung. You have the opportunity to reverse course. We urge you to take it." So I feel like what we can take away from the existence of this letter is it goes beyond just the banning of this one particular player. Of course, there wouldn't be such a huge amount of outcry outside of the Hearthstone community if it was just about this one player. It's obviously the actions that they took, the fact that they've continued to support those actions, double down on them, and so on and so forth. We'll have to see if Blizzard actually issue any response to this letter from the senators. They may just continue to hold their current position. I would not be surprised for that to be the case, given that despite them reducing Blitzchung's ban, they of course have just stood by their opinions pretty steadily, to be honest, so I expect that to continue. But I may be surprised, but I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but expecting the worst, I guess, is the way to frame my expectations for any response we get from Blizzard, if any, on this matter. But do let me know your thoughts and opinions, as always guys, on everything discussed in this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, your support is highly appreciated. Do remember to like and subscribe, it does help out a great deal, and I'll see you next time.